This is Matt Duffield from mattduffieldtrading.com, and tonight we're doing a hot penny stock recap on CAPN, OHRP, and WG. And before we get started, I want to remind you this video is for educational purposes only. Don't misconstrue it for trading advice. I'm not a registered investment advisor, and penny stock trading can be very risky, so I urge you to make your own decisions. So starting off with CAPN, this was the hot penny stock play in pre-market. Obviously, it was going to gap up, so a lot of traders were watching this here. And you can see it gapped up from $2 to about $2.45. And then it consolidated very briefly, a couple minutes of consolidation before it broke the morning high, which this is a perfect morning spike situation where you get this gap higher, consolidation, and then when you get price to take out the opening high, or not the opening high, but typically you'd say the morning high. So once it broke through about 248, this thing just super spiked all the way up to the 340 range. So that could have been an excellent trade if you knew what you were looking for this morning. Unfortunately, I had a nice long Labor Day weekend. I didn't come into today really looking to make big trades, and this one happened so fast it caught me off guard, and I'm sure it did a lot of people, which is what caused that huge spike. So anyway, how can you find something like this? That's what I want to kind of show you, what to look for in a situation like this. If you go out to a daily chart, anytime you see a stock that's going to gap higher, so this gapped around 240, you want to look for resistance levels. And there was a clear resistance level right here in the 250, 260 range. But if price successfully takes out that resistance level, look for the next one. And you have to go all the way up here to about 330, 340. And as you can see, that's exactly where price went today once it busted through this resistance level here. And it happened very quickly, which is very common. So that's what I'm looking for. Back to the intraday chart, we'll go to a 5-minute time frame. Once it tagged 340, it sold off very strongly back to the mid 250, 260 range. Bounced again to $3, and it was done for the rest of the day. It closed at 255. This is very common. And I'm sure you're more concerned with where's this going tomorrow in the coming days. I always try to go to a larger time frame again, and look at the past history of that particular stock, because they typically tend to trade the same way. On this day here, you got a big spike followed by a 5-day sell-off. Another big spike this day followed by weeks of selling. So this has a history of spiking for one day and then selling off. I'm expecting the same thing here, but the difference, a little bit of a difference this time. There's some nice support now at 220, 230. So as this comes lower, I would expect it to bounce at 230 or so. How much? I'm not sure. We'll have to reevaluate if there's a decent setup at that point. But I'm not really looking for this to, do another one of these runs tomorrow morning or anything like that, although it's possible. If it does go that direction, I would be looking to buy above $3. But I don't think that's the way this is going. So let's move on to OHRP. Another big runner today. This is a 5-minute chart. As you can see, price gapped up to $3, rallied to 340, sold off a bit, and then grinded higher in this afternoon trading. I don't like this setup. I think it's kind of frustrating, and after you see a breakout like the pick I just showed you, that thing gained 20, 30, 40% in minutes, whereas this one takes all afternoon to gain 10%. It's kind of frustrating and tricky to play. I did recognize this pattern. You do see this quite often. Back on ACI, which has been it was a hot play a couple weeks ago. So on a 10-minute time frame, 14-day chart, here you go. You get this big initial push higher, sell off, and then a grind higher back to this initial peak. And then from here, This thing sold off again, came back up, consolidated. But most importantly, it did break out in a big way, but it took a couple more days of consolidation. So going back to OHRP, if the pattern repeats, and these things do tend to repeat on a 5-minute time frame. So we're back here. You get this initial push higher, and then the second push higher tags this level, and then from there I'm looking for either selling or consolidation, potentially over the next couple days, and then we'll reevaluate if this can go higher. More importantly, on the daily chart, if this can get back to $4 or a little bit above that on strong volume, there's a huge gap to fill up to $7, possibly even as high as $8.50. That's a long shot. I don't like the volume today. How much is that? 4 million. Look at the volume back here. 45 million, 9 million, 18 million, and even then it wasn't able to break above 4 very, very long. So this could be a 1 or 2 day play. We'll keep an eye on it and see what happens. And WG was the other hot penny stock play of the day that traders were trading. I already have a trend line on it. This had a nice push higher all day, just a nice solid uptrend, very strong, kind of like the overall markets. It was a very strong day. You get higher lows, higher highs. Just from experience, I don't think this is a top right here. I think it'll push higher one more time, but it's probably not something I'm going to trade. For one, price is already broke under this rising trend line. I think what it'll probably do is rally back up, test the underside of the trend line tomorrow morning around $1.80 and do, I don't know, like a double top kind of thing. If you do go to a 5-minute chart, you're looking at nice support here in the $1.50 range. So I won't be trading this for the simple reason there's about 15 cents of downside for a potential 15 cents of upside. I don't like to play when it's a 1-to-1 risk to reward. Let me get back to the intraday. So if I'm wrong, and this does manage to break above $1.80, you have to come out pretty far on the daily chart to find out where you're at. There is some resistance right here at today's close in the $1.60 range, but above that, you might be looking at $2 and $2.40 if it can get above 2. So there is potential. I don't think this is going to go that high, and this is a very steep uptrend to maintain. So I won't be trading it at this point, but I would probably make an entry if it does break above $2. So that's all I have, guys. I wish you the best of luck tomorrow.